Hello everyone. It is a Sunday afternoon here in Missouri and the weather's kind of cleared up a little bit. I came out to the garage and I've been messing with the Civic a little bit, watching some videos, some soft spot videos. But yeah, I've just been out here trying to play with the Civic a little bit, try and get it to idle a little better. Doing some adjusting on the fuel for the Motec and whatnot, but I think I am actually going to look at maybe a new project for the future. I know I probably shouldn't because I just sold the S10, and I sold it, one, because money was nice, and two, I needed some space, needed to clear up some space in another garage. But I'm gonna close this door here. But yeah, so I sold it mainly to, like I said, clear up some space in the other shop. That way, if I need to work on something or move stuff around, it's not a big deal moving all the cars around. And you know, that way I can put a couple cars in the garage underneath the house, and then free up a couple spots in the big shop and be able to work in here. But I found this little truck for sale on Facebook Marketplace. I actually wanted one a really long time ago, and I was probably, I don't know, honestly probably 12, 13 years old. And excuse me for a second. Anyways, but I found one here local, just down the street from my house, actually. So I'm actually going to go look at it. I may, for a while, just buy it more or less just to save miles on my new truck, and just have something to, you know, put around in. You know, if I'm taking motors to work to get motor work done and all this stuff, I can throw it in the bed of this truck and not worry about it. You know, when I take stuff to work, I have to throw it in the bed of my Dodge, and it's pretty tall, so it's kind of a pain when you gotta get the cherry picker out and put it up in there and all this stuff. So I think I may, if I can get this truck to start and run and it's not completely rusted out and rotten, I may end up bringing this thing home. But I'm not gonna tell you what it is just yet. I'll let you wait a little further into the video. But and it may turn into something later. I'm not real sure. In my mind, as soon as I start looking at random old off-the-wall cars, I start getting weird ideas, and that's just the way my brain works. Just like with the boost knuckle, you know, like when I saw this thing, I knew this is what I wanted it to be, and you know, it took me a couple years to get there, but I got it there, and it's going to progress and, you know, keep getting better. But I don't know, or this could be a total bad decision on my part. Sometimes it happens, and you know, we buy stuff and we're like, why did we do that? But I'm gonna give it a shot. Like I said, I'm gonna go look at it here in just a few minutes. I'm waiting on them to get home, and I'm gonna head down the street, go take a look at it, take some starting fluid, see if I can get this whole thing started up. And I don't know, maybe I'll bring it home. Maybe we'll have a little shop truck to roll around in and, you know, tinker with here and there. So what's up, guys? So it is Wednesday and it's nasty out here. You can see that it says it's 1 degree, and I have ended up, my seatbelt dinger's gonna go off here in a second, but I did something I probably shouldn't have. It was kind of an impulse buy. But I bought this little truck. I haven't shown it to you guys yet, so I'm gonna get over here. It's snowing. It's supposed to be nice tomorrow. I took a long lunch today at work and just couldn't take it much longer. I wanted to go pick this thing up so I can get it home and you know, just start tinkering with it. It's actually just gonna be a little truck I think I drive. Man, all this noise going on here. But anyways, I'm gonna get over here and attempt to get this thing started up. It hasn't been in like a year, and I know it's got some bad gas in it, but I'm going to attempt to get it started on the trailer in the snow, and then I'm going to try and go back to work in time to finish off a few hours of work. So, alright, so I don't know if you can see it behind me, you probably can't, but I got the truck picked up. It only took me about, I don't know, 3 hours to get it to start and run on its own. Had a bunch of bad gas in it, like a third of a tank. So I tried to dilute it the best I could with some fresh fuel and threw a little heat in it just for good measure. And then it wouldn't start on its own, so I kind of had to prime it with some starting fluid, get it fired up, and then just kind of burp some starter fluid into the carburetor to try and keep it running and finally get it to start pulling fuel up to it from the tank. But I ended up having to hook the truck to it and jumping it and letting it run for, geez, I don't even know. I bet I cranked on it and let it start and it'd die and start and die and start and die. I bet I did that for an hour and a half. Luckily I had my jumper cables with me, so I just pulled the Dodger next to it and just, kind of cranked on it until it finally got a little bit of heat inside of it, and the motor got a little heat to it, and I had to adjust the idle a little bit on it to kind of get it to idle high, and then I finally got to a point where what I thought was starting to smell like normal fuel instead of old varnished bad fuel. It's actually got a fuel leak underneath it. I got to find out where that's coming from. This thing's set, I think the last time it was licensed was 2016, so it's been set in a while. The little old lady that had it passed away, and now it's in my hands, so I'm going to clean this little truck up. I'm going to drive it a little while, and you know me, I can't leave anything alone, so more than likely it's just going to be a normal driver trying to save miles on my new truck, and put some miles on it. It's got a 2.6 liter 4-cylinder. I think it's they call it a 4G54 cam. This is a single overhead cam motor. But anyways, I'm gonna get to the house and start to get this thing unloaded and show you what we got. Alright guys, so we got the truck unloaded. Actually already got it in the garage, and I noticed had a fuel leak, so I got to put a fuel pump on this thing. But she's a little rough, but I think it'll be a cool little shop truck. Just a parts runner type deal, and who knows, we may get carried away and do something really stupid to it. But anyways, I'll show it to you guys. Here it is. It's a 1988 Dodge Ram 50 or D50. It is basically a Mighty Max, Mitsubishi Mighty Max pickup truck. I actually already got in here and wiped down the dash a little bit, and I turned the heater on after I had it running for a little bit, and it actually blew a bunch of junk out of the vents there. It definitely a rough old truck. But they're super neat. I've always wanted one, but there's a couple cool little things you can do to these trucks. Somebody's already put bigger tires on it, but they're junk, so I got to change those out. There's actually a little old lady that owned it. I don't know how old she was, but she passed away, and her kids were selling some of her stuff, and I kind of wanted to give this thing another chance at seeing the road. They had the truck since '94, and it's an '88. But it's had a bunch of maintenance and stuff done to it. You can't really tell right now. It's been sitting for probably the last couple of years. But to start out, I'm going to do a little bit of maintenance to it, just kind of freshen it up. And then I think I'm actually going to put a 2-inch drop block in the back and try and level the back off with the front. I'll do that for a little while. Should look a little bit better. Actually going to take the rear bumper off of it. These trucks actually kind of had like a factory roll pan underneath of them. If you can see, the bumper is just like a big J bracket or L bracket type deal, and it just drops down underneath that factory roll pan and then kicks up to the bumper. But you can take those off, and then it's got like a little factory roll pan and stuff on it, which is kind of cool. Another cool thing about this truck It's got the bigger motor. They offered it with a 2-liter and a 2.6. This is the 2.6. It's carbureted. It's funny, you can see the Mitsubishi badge there. I actually sprayed a little soap and water in here to try and get some of the grime off the firewall. But I mean, I think it'll clean up pretty good. It obviously need a little pressure washing there. But they actually called this, if you can look here, I don't know if you can see it, it says G54B. It's basically a 4G54B, which was kind of like a big brother to the 4G63. This is a 2.6 liter. From what I understand, you can actually put the 4G63 dual overhead cam head on this block. Don't quote me on that, but from what I've seen, that seems to be pretty common. A lot of guys mostly just swap the 4G63 in them and just don't even look back. But yeah, it's neat. A little 6-lug, which kind of makes for a pain. There's not much for wheel choices out there. I've already had an idea of putting some wheels on it. I may end up doing some weird paint job. I don't know. I may leave it just like this and put some fancy wheels on it and just drive the shit out of it. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and put a new fuel pump on it. Hopefully that'll fix the fuel leak issue I had. If that does fix it, I'm gonna get it started up, run it outside, and just let it sit and run for a while. Like I said, it's set for a really long time. It's got some bad gas in it. It probably had like 1/3 of a tank of gas in it, and I probably put 7 or 8 gallons of good gas on top of it. You can tell it still runs funny. It could be the fuel, or it could be a bunch of junk in the tank. I don't know yet. I'm more or less just gonna cycle what gas is in it through it. If it doesn't fix it, then I'll go ahead and pull the tank out of it, clean it out, empty it out, whatever, if there's any junk, grime, or anything in it. And then obviously put some fresh gas in it. Then I'll go through and do the tune-up, plugs, wires, all that normal stuff. See what that gets me as far as how it runs and drives. If that doesn't work, then we'll just keep going on and chipping away at all the little stuff that keeps these things from running up to par. It sucks with the carbureted stuff. They're so finicky, but especially this thing in the late 80s, they were starting to make the transition to fuel injection stuff. And I mean, there's vacuum lines everywhere in this thing. I mean, you can obviously see it. They've even got vacuum lines tapped off and just shoved on bolts where they just obviously didn't know where they went. But anyways, I'm gonna get this fuel pump off, and then I'll get it started up for you guys. Alright, so I got this old fuel pump off, and I tell you what, that thing was a huge pain in my ass. I wasn't sure, I've never messed with one of these, so I wasn't sure how it set inside the cylinder head. I just knew the cam drove it, so I just wasn't sure. But anyway, so I tried pulling it out. Once I unbolted it, it wouldn't come out far enough, to come out of this hole out of the side of the cylinder head down here. So then I had to unbolt the carburetor, shift the carburetor, get the carburetor out of the way, and I got it out a little ways, and then it still got stuck. But in the process, I decided, I was like, well, heck with it, I'm gonna have to pull the valve cover off this thing. So like I said, I got the carburetor out of the way and all that stuff, and the pump was unbolted, so then I went ahead and pulled this valve cover off. When I bought this truck, they had told me that the engine had been replaced umpteen miles ago. The truck's got 140K on it. They said it had been replaced at like 77,000 and something. Like they actually knew like an exact mileage. But when you buy something like this, you kind of take it with a grain of salt. And I just was under the assumption, it probably had, a timing chain or something put in it, and they assumed it was a new motor. But anyway, so I'm going to pull this off here, and you're going to see how clean this old motor is. I'm almost certain this thing had been replaced with a brand new engine. I mean, look how clean that thing is. There's no, granted the oil's dirty. So once I start driving it, heat cycling it, and changing the oil regularly, it's going to probably get cleaner. I'll put some good oil in it and stuff. But I mean, this thing is super, super clean, and I don't know how well you can make that out. Let me turn this light on. But I mean, it's just, I was really blown away when I pulled that off. I was like, you got to be kidding me. This thing is mint. So needless to say, I was super pumped about that. I know they have issues with timing chain tensioners and all this stuff on these things, but I think as long as, you know, I keep it up, maintained, and, you know, just all the normal odds and ends, I think this thing could last a, you know, pretty good amount of time. So, oh yeah, but anyways, I was going to show you this. So the pump comes in this hole here, and it's driven off this lobe right here. Well, it got, when I was trying to weasel that out, it got stuck between this like little lash adjuster here, and it wouldn't come out. So that was why I ended up having to pull the valve cover off of it, and I'm glad I did, because that was actually a pretty big peace of mind, just seeing how clean this thing actually was. But anyways, I got to get this old gasket scraped off. It's got a little spacer on there, so I got to put 2 gaskets on it. I'll get the new pump on it, get the carburetor bolted back down on it. I'm probably going to take the valve cover to my shop and put it in one of my washers, just to clean it up. The gasket's, it's not horrible. I mean, you can tell it still bends pretty freely. I don't know. I may try and just slap it back on, get it running, and just roll with it. Maybe put a little sealer around the bottom of it, or I may just buy a new gasket, take this to work, clean this up, and, you know, make that thing look brand new. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get this pump put on, and we will go from there. Come on, don't rip the gasket. There's a good possibility I'm gonna rip this gasket at the rate I'm going here. Come on. Ah, yep, I ripped it. I knew that was gonna happen. This thing has fought me the whole way just to put a damn fuel pump on it. Oh, now I'm gonna have to go and get another gasket. Son of a biscuit. So I ended up having a bunch of issues with this fuel pump on this truck, and did a couple things. Ended up finding out that the pump was stuck, or at least the lever that operates the pump, it was actually stuck inside the cylinder head up against the head bolt, which is weird. I don't know if whenever they put it together they bent it wrong, but it wasn't hitting the eccentric on the cam, so it wasn't pumping any fuel. I got all that fixed, ended up still wouldn't start and run after that, and then I kind of basically pointed towards the fact that the tank has a bunch of nasty junk in it. I ended up taking this peach tea bottle here and putting some fuel in it, putting a hose on it, and then just hooking it directly to the carburetor, or at least directly to the pump, just, you know, prior to the carburetor, and cranked on it, and it pumped fuel right out of it, truck lit, and it just run and idle perfect. So pretty much what I'd done was I bypassed the tank, the fuel filter, and all the fuel lines underneath the truck, and just kind of put like a remote mount, you know, so to speak, a tank, you know, with fuel in it, just to bypass all that, and it ran. So then I hooked the fuel line from the truck back to the pump and tried to start it, and nothing. It took a little bit. I took the filter off of it, blew it out. It actually had a bunch of junk in it. I'll show you the it's kind of hard to see. You can actually look on this side here. You can see my finger on the back side there. That is all junk that came out of this thing, and obviously the color of the fuel, you can tell, is a little less than up to snuff. But I ended up taking the filter off of it and putting it, like straining it through a rag here, and you can see all the rust particles and all that junk that's in it. So I've got to pull the tank out of this thing. I was hoping to not have to, but if I get this thing apart and it's just roached, the inside's just full of rust and stuff, more than likely I'm probably just going to buy a cheap fuel cell and throw a fuel cell in the bed and just roll with that. But anyways, I've got the truck inside, getting ready to put it on the lift, so I can get it up in the air and check, you know, probably pull the tank out of it. I'd like to pull the bed off of it, but since this thing's so old and who knows what the bottom side of this truck looks like, I have a feeling it's going to be pretty rusty. So I think I'm better off just trying to get the tank out of it rather than trying to take the bed off of it and break the bed bolts off of it. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Actually clean it up a little bit, at least this side. I haven't got over that side yet. Wipe the dash down. It all cleaned up pretty good. I took the valve cover, ended up taking the valve cover to work and taking it and cleaning it and then painting the lid to the air cleaner here. It actually is not dry yet. It's supposed to be a low gloss black, and that looks pretty glossy to me. So that may get just redone. And then the air box itself, the lower portion, I'll probably end up painting it too to match it. The engine bay and everything's going to get detailed, so all that should clean up pretty good. It's going to need a new grill, obviously, like I mentioned before. The bumper's going to need some work. That's all going to have to come off. I may just try and do my best, and I may actually try and straighten that bumper out the best I can. Like I said, just enough to get it off the fenders so I can straighten the fenders out, and then maybe I'll build like a little lower valance, which I think that's actually what that is there, but it's no longer there. It's shoved up underneath of it. And I told myself I wasn't going to do anything to this truck much more than just maintenance and driving it, but I cannot drive something this old and this cool and not do something to it. So I'm actually working on getting something coming for it, but I'll probably throw that in the next video when all that shows up. But I'm actually going to go ahead, while I got up in the air, I'm going to go ahead and pull this bumper off. Like I said, there's pretty much like a factory roll pan behind it. You'll see it as soon as I get all that off. And then I'm going to look at trying to maybe putting like a 2-inch block in the back and lowering the back of it down a couple inches to try and level it off with the front. From what I measured, I think it was like just under 3 inches, somewhere between 2 3/4 and 3 inches difference from the front height to the rear height, or yeah, from the front height to the rear height. So I may just try and throw a 2-inch block underneath of it. Yeah, so I'm gonna get this up on the lift, and I'm gonna change the oil and stuff in it while I've got it up. I'll probably go ahead and drain the rear diff fluid and the trans fluid and all that stuff if I can, and just go ahead and get some of the maintenance done on it and work on getting this tank out. So I got the truck up in the air, got the oil changed on it, and was checking out some of the other stuff underneath of it. It actually needs a carrier bearing in the drive shaft here. If you can look, the truck's so long, so it's got a 2-piece drive shaft. They put what they call a carrier bearing right in the middle to take some of the load, but if you can tell, that one's wore out. When I was gonna pull the tank out of it to clean it out and stuff, that I thought to myself the other day, I wonder if Mitsubishi was smart enough to build in like a drain in the tank like the Hondas are and stuff like that in the cars. And you know, a lot of your domestic cars aren't that way, and but sure as shit they did. Mitsubishi / Dodge, which obviously this truck's all Mitsubishi, they were smart enough to put a damn drain in it. So I drained out probably, I bet it every bit of 13-14 gallons of fuel, and it was old, nasty junk. I put some good gas in it, started it up, changed the oil like I said. It seems to be running a lot better now, so I may drive it a little bit that way if it gets to a point where I can't get it to run much better off. And I'm going to change the fuel filter a couple times in it and see if that helps. But I also got the rear bumper off of it, but this one's had a little bit of a bender in the back, but it's pretty neat the way they put these beds together. But anyways, here it is without the bumper on it. I really like the way that looks. It's neat they put that in there, but for whatever reason in the States, you know, as far as safety goes, they have to obviously put a bumper on it. But obviously you can tell by looking at it that it's not designed to have a bumper, so they put these big gnarly ass brackets to drop it below that, because that roll pan is actually molded to the bed sides, so there's no taking it off really, unless you want to take it off permanently. But obviously the manufacturer just found it to be easiest just to make a bracket and put it on and drop underneath of it and hold the bumper up, but it looks so much better without that on there. I still got to drain the rear diff fluid. I'm going to change that out. I may regret doing that. And then the tranny fluid, I need to check it and see how dirty it is. You know, some of this automatic transmission stuff, if they don't have any problems, you kind of don't, if they don't have any problems and the tranny fluid's really, really dirty, you usually don't want to mess with it, because the minute you change that fluid and the filter and stuff in it, the trannies always go out of them. Well, you know, no matter what make and model it is, that always seems to be an issue. That was always a big thing whenever I worked in the dealership. They had issues like that. It's like a customer would come in with 200,000 miles on their car and they've only ever changed the trans fluid in it once, and they wanted to come in and do it again. We usually try and steer them away from it, because like if it's working good and it's not messing up, at this point you kind of pushed it that far, you might as well just leave it and take your chances, because more often than not you change the fluid and the filter in it and the tranny goes out within the first few hundred miles. So, but anyways, the truck's got a little bit of rust. It looks worse than it really is. A lot of this is just the coating on the frame coming off. You know, it's just paint. But I took a wire brush to a little bit of it, and it all kind of flaked off and come out pretty, you know, decent. I may at some point pull the bed off of it and clean the frame up, you know, wire brush everything, maybe POR 15 it, try and preserve it and get it to last another 30 plus years, just like I did on the old boost knuckle. So anyways, I think for now, I think that's going to do it for this video. This is more or less just kind of give you a little run around of the new project, or not project. See, I already started it. More or less just give you a run around of the new truck, daily driver, beater, parts getter, pickup truck that I bought, and just kind of show you all what we were doing with it. But anyways, don't forget, comment, like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, Aquarium Racing, and we will see you guys later.